Hey guys, welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. I am so happy that you guys are here with me this evening, yet again, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So you got to look at my mug. That's kind of how it works. And for those of you who haven't figured this out yet, what am I going to ask? Like, comment, share. It's always good if you do that. It's always makes things a whole lot better. The topic that I wanted to bring up tonight, and I know that it can be a difficult one to bring up with a lot of people who are upset with what's happening throughout our country, is the idea of police violence, right? Cops versus civilians and the back and forth. And it's a tough one for people to talk about. A lot of people are edgy and upset, mad about this, mad about that. Absolutely, I get it. But let me bring up what I think is the common denominator, right? The issue that goes, remember when I talk about things like, mass shootings and such, I always say at its core, right, it is unhappy people, usually men, young men, almost always young men without girlfriends. I joke about that kind of idea, right? That's what it's about. I'm saying that there is a root cause here too. And the root cause here is fear. And it isn't just fear of the cops. It is. But it's also fear with the people who are being pulled over. They're afraid. They're scared. The cops are afraid and the people are afraid. And what have you heard me say so many times? If you pay attention to me, I say it all the time. People who are afraid make bad decisions. That's what they do. They make bad decisions. And that means you make a bad decision when you're in that car, and you make a bad decision when you're the cop outside the car. Consistently, you see cops making bad decisions. You see individuals making bad decisions. And then what happens is one side picks the cop side, the other side picks the bad guy side, and we repeat. What you see constantly is, okay, the guy got killed. So now what do the people who support the cops always do? They immediately look and say, well, why is this guy a bad guy and why did he deserve to die? And then the other side says, well, why is this guy so innocent and why a cop so evil and why a cop so racist? So those are the two sides you get in almost every case. And I would argue that while sometimes this is accurate, that's minor. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time, those two issues don't matter. What matters is one of them or both of them were afraid. They were scared. And one of them or both of them made a bad decision because of it. So if we actually start getting rid of the fear, then maybe that would be better, right? Maybe that would be a better way of doing it, working on trying to get rid of the fear. And if you look at it, and the one I want to bring up, and no one talks about this aspect. It's always, let's either punish cops or let's support cops, but hardly anyone's talking about actual solutions. Now, I like the qualified immunity piece. That's good. But the question is that going to make cops more or less fearful? Is that going to make people more or less fearful? If it doesn't affect the fear factor, it's going to be something that we always do. It's going to sound nice and not be effective. And not be effective. And I'm going to show you the one that bothers me. Both of them bother me. Is when the people are afraid. Let me show you the one. This is from the gentleman who wasn't shot, but he was treated horribly by people in it by cops in his neighborhood. This guy is the veteran. You maybe heard about this one. He wasn't shot. He was shot with pepper spray, which is better, definitely better, but still bad. You might know this one.
In a controversial traffic stop of a Black and Latino Army officer in December has been fired. Body camera footage shows Windsor, Virginia police officers Joe Gutierrez and...
Look at these guys. Now, the thing that drives me crazy about this, really drives me crazy, is they pull a guy over. Okay, he pulls in. He's in uniform, and both of them come out with guns out. He has both of his hands physically outside the window. So what I would ask you, cops, why the hell are you so afraid? what kind of training are you getting, or what type of background do you have, or what's wrong with you that you are so afraid that both of you will come out with your guns out pointing at the guy? What possible reason? Both of his hands are out the window. And the thing I get all the time is, well, their windows are tinted. So that means you're going to get shot. So that means you're going to die. So that means your life is on the line. Now, if the guy wouldn't come out or was quiet or whatever, you order him to roll his window down. He doesn't. There are so many levels to this. Why is he so afraid? And they made bad decisions because they were afraid. Now, to be clear, the vet made some mistakes too. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying he made some mistakes too. Why? He was afraid. Two guys were pointing guns at him. He's black. He watches TV. He sees these things on TV every day. He's human. He's a human being. So he's scared too. So they're scared and he's scared. This can't end well. I hope you see my point. Regardless of what policy you put in place, regardless of what other thing you do, if you don't get rid of these guys being afraid, and what I bring this up? When I talked about police reform, the biggest thing I talked about was officer training, and people thought I was crazy. Why do I say this? I was a Marine for many years. Many of you listening or watching, you are probably a veteran, and you know the same thing I know. These cops are more afraid of policing than Marines are going into combat. Marines are less afraid going into combat, where usually the enemy shoots back. Usually, in this case, the enemy doesn't shoot back, but usually enemies shoot back. Why in the world would you be so afraid? What are they training you in? Are they training you in things like, you better be ready to kill people, your life's on the line? Is that what they're training you? It isn't true.
Daniel Crocker pointing their guns
Look at this.
Army Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario.
He's got both his hands up. Why do you have your guns out? At that point, shouldn't you just put your guns away? And if you think he's a threat, and maybe you do. I mean, maybe it doesn't look like it at all, but maybe the cop thought he was a threat. Perhaps. All right, grab him, cuff him. There's two of you, one of him, and his hands are out. Why the hell are you afraid?
Before Gutierrez pepper sprays him. Lieutenant Nazario was released without being charged, and he is now suing both officers.
Yes.
CBS News correspondent.
And if you remember, the Army officer literally said, I'm afraid. There's two guys pointing guns at me. This guy's an Army officer, and he's afraid in his own country, in his own area. He's afraid. And the police officer doesn't de-escalate and go, sir, there's no reason to be afraid. Let me put my gun away. Please step out of the car. Wow. Everything gets better if the cop just does that. You know what? No need to be afraid. And if the cop was afraid, he could have had his buddy sit in the car and cover him if he was afraid. I'm not asking cops to throw their lives away. I'm not at all. I'm just saying the guy's got his hands out. What are you doing? Put the gun away. Sir, you shouldn't be afraid. Why don't you step out of the car? Now, I don't want him to step out of the car. I can't stand that. But at least that's the proper training you should have. Why aren't we having scenario training? Literally, we had scenario training in the Marine Corps all the time, right? How does this work? What do we do? When do we fire? How do we have fire discipline? All those things, so that when we go into combat, we wouldn't be so damn afraid. I mean, I don't know this to be true, but I feel like these people have no training. I don't know it to be true. That's how it looks to me from an outsider. That's how it looks like. No de-escalation whatsoever, just aggression. And should he have gotten in a car? He should have. Now, legally, does he have to? No. And there is the issue. Do you have to get out of the car for a traffic stop? No, he doesn't. He legally doesn't have to, right? And they didn't even tell him what he was pulled over for. They just yelled at him and told him to get out of the car. Now, again, I'm not making this up. They just did that. They literally yelled at him and said, get out of the car. How would you feel? I'm asking you. How would you feel? And you can see video after video. If you're in the libertarian world, you see lots of videos of a bunch of white guys telling cops, I don't answer questions. And nothing happening. What if he had done that? different issue.
And Christina Raffini has the story.
What's going on?
Look at him.
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
See, the weapons are drawn and they haven't even walked up to him. They came out with weapons drawn. Why? Why? What is the possible reason for asking him to step out of his car?
Door slowly, step out.
Get out! Get out the car! Get out!
Okay, look, he can get out of the car. Fine. But why are there guns required? This is the problem. That's my entire problem. This was escalated. It didn't have to be. Now, he's wrong, too, because he's scared. He should have been quiet a bit. He could have done that. I say he's wrong. He made some mistakes, too, right? He should have also tried to de-escalate. But it's not his responsibility. It's the cop's responsibility.
I have not committed any crime.
In body camera and cell phone video, Army Second Lieutenant Caron Nazario, still in his uniform, holds his hands out the window of his new car, while two Windsor, Virginia police officers, guns drawn, order him to get out.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out.
Do you hear that? I'm honestly afraid to get out of the car. Yeah, you should be. Why in the world would you want to get out of that car? I'd be scared too. I got my camera on. I don't want to say nothing. I'd be scared too.
The car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me, please. Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me.
Back up, David.
I didn't do anything.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Sir.
Nazario repeatedly asks why.
Now, I want to ask another question. What the common thing between this one and all the other ones is an afraid cop. Now, what if he was afraid for his life? What if not the police officer. What if the Army officer was afraid for his life right now? What if he thought he was going to be shot? What if he had drawn down and he had fired? Imagine if he had a gun on him. He didn't, but if he did, he drew down and he fired. Afraid for his life. What if he had done that? What if he hit a cop or not hit a cop or hit both of them, not killed them, whatever, in any way, shape, or form? He's finished. And this is the point that I want to keep bringing up. Once it gets to this point, you're done. You're done. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do at this point. De-escalation has to be the answer. You can't have afraid cops like this, and you can't have afraid people like this. Fear is the answer. Fear is the answer. We have to fix the fear. No one deserves to be treated this way, and the cops shouldn't be so scared either. How are we training them? Are we training them to be afraid all the time? I sure hope not. I sure hope not.
It's been pulled over before ex-officer Joe Gutierrez pepper sprays him through the open window.
Sir, just get out the car.
I'm trying to breathe. Ugh. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car.
Nazario is then kicked, forced to the ground, and put in handcuffs.
And to be clear, never told what he was pulled over for. Never told what he was pulled over for. This is a problem. I'll go to the same thing. Let's say I'll go down the road. I'll give the cop the benefit of the doubt. The guy fit a description, and there's some bad guy who's stealing cars. I'm making this up to give cops the benefit of the doubt. They were afraid. Okay, they're afraid. So one cop gets out, the other one covers him, and you figure out if it's the bad guy or not. That's what you do. Well, Larry, he might get shot. He's a cop. Yeah. When I was a Marine, I might have got shot too. Yeah. Doesn't mean I shot every civilian in sight. Yeah. That you volunteer for that job. You do. Or don't have that job. You volunteer for that job. Yeah. So even if you give the cops the benefit of the doubt, they came out guns blazing. That's their error. Now, the other time, I'll go back to the other one, which drives me crazy, which is the Philando Castile piece. That guy didn't come out guns blazing. He came out regular conversation, as you should. But he was so afraid that when the guy mentioned, when Philando mentioned he had a gun, he shot him to death. Fear is the issue. That's the key piece.
Why am I being treated like this? Why?
You're not cooperating.
The incident report says Nazario was pulled over for not having tags displayed on his
No
SUV.
tags displayed.
But the temporary dealer plate is visible in the officer's body cam video. The report also said
Yep.
officers treated it as a high-risk stop.
Why?
Because Nazario had tinted windows. And
tinted windows is why. So if you have tinted windows, clearly you're a criminal. This is a bad
drove
answer.
at a very low speed to a gas station before pulling over. A move Gutierrez later said he understood.
As far as you not stopping and because you weren't comfortable and you wanted a well-lit spot,
Yes.
that happens all the time.
He did.
That happens. He says it happens all the time. This is so. Why are you scared?
Everything that we are told to do for everyone's safety.
Attorney Jonathan Arthur represents Nazario.
When you look in your rearview mirror and you see 2 firearms trained at you, you got to get real.
You're gonna get
calm
scared
real quick. If you
now. That officer was smart. If this and this is the second piece. Why didn't this officer here push the other? I'm gonna say it. Push the other asshole officer away. Why didn't this guy go, dude? You're way out of line. Get out. Let me talk to this guy. Get out of here. Go sit back and sit in the car. What are you doing? What are you doing? This guy should have stepped up and pushed the asshole officer away and said, stop. This is the second problem, that we have a culture that this guy doesn't step up and say, dude, go sit down. And the thing is, right now, literally right now, cops are on trial for eight cops on trial for the death of George Floyd. You would think the police or law enforcement community would be like, we got to watch out for this. We got to stop pushing these people away. When they start getting hyped up, when they start getting upset, look, cops are human. I know a lot of people hate cops. I don't hate cops. Cops are human, and they're going to get stressed, and they're going to get whatever. I got it. Then someone's got to step in and say, dude, you're going crazy. Get in the car. Get in the car. I got this. And that didn't even happen. Not even that happened. This is a problem. Not even happened.
want to get out of there a lot. You know, it's a credit to his training.
What are you, a specialist, Corporal? What are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
According to the lawsuit,
You're that stupid you can't see his bar? Now I'm mad at you. Now I'm even insulted by you now. He got bars, man. What's wrong with you?
the officers also threatened to derail Nazario's military career if he pursued further action against them.
If you want to just chill,
Listen
let
to
this
this.
go, and no charges filed, we'll take the handcuffs off, we'll get you a bottle of water you can drink on, and sit here until you feel comfortable driving.
So this piece of garbage, and I'm going to say it, this piece of garbage has done this before, because you don't play that game. You don't do that so calmly. You don't basically just say, you know, you shut up, then you don't say nothing. We're not going to say nothing. You don't do that mobster shit unless you've done it before. This cop's a thug and a terrible human being. The other cop is stuck. I don't think the other cop's a bad cop. I don't. But this guy's a bad guy. He's making it bad for everybody. He's making it bad for everybody. That's a piece of garbage right there. I really hope not. He got fired already, but I really hope he has a crappy next 20 years before he drops dead. This is a bad guy. There's no reason why he should have been the way he is. And he's making every other cop look bad.
Now, after that search of his vehicle turned up no violations.
Of course, we do know that. But my point being that I keep saying, we have to change the system so the cops don't feel afraid. Change the training so the cops can move into these fields without feeling like they're going to be shot, because the odds are they're not. Cop's job is a very difficult job, a very challenging job, a very emotional job, but it isn't necessarily dangerous. It's not even a top 10 dangerous jobs. It just isn't. I know people think it is. It isn't. They're not putting their life on the line. They're not compared to Marines and soldiers and sailors. They're not. But it is a very difficult job to do. We make the cops do far too much. We answer them for every single thing. We make them do, every time there's a problem, we call a cop for everything. We have a crappy system we've got to fix. That's for sure. We have to fix it. And then once we begin to do that, we gotta let the civilian population know that we've made the changes. So now the civilians don't get so scared when the cop pulls up. If the civilian isn't scared and the cop isn't scared, guess what? The only people running away will be actual bad guys. I would like that. I would like only the bad guys. That would be better. And the system has to work better. It simply has to. It doesn't work well right now at all. Let me grab some of your comments. A lot of comments here. I also want to show another piece if I can. So I knew some of you are going to be upset about this. I know some of you are going to be mad and think I go too far one way or the other. But I'm trying to find an actual solution. And whenever I look for a solution, I got to make sure both sides are part of the solution. If I don't, I just make things worse, right? If I only go, cops are always right. The civilians suck. They have a hard life. You should respect the cops. If I only do that, then I don't have a good solution. And the opposite, cops are all evil and racist, then I don't have a good solution there either way. So neither one works. We have to find a right one. Jimmy says, I may get triggered on this one. I got attacked and involved with police brutality in 2009 for sitting in a passenger seat. Even watching the Chauvin trial is tough for me. I'm sorry to hear that, Jimmy. I really am. I've luckily never been roughed up by cops. I've been detained twice for no reason, both as a stupid teenager. Actually, once as an adult, but so 3 times. I've been detained multiple times, but I've luckily never been arrested. So that's one positive, I guess. But yeah, and I remember once being detained. I was a teenager, probably 14, 15, doing stupid stuff I don't want to talk about. I got detained, and my other friends who were white didn't. So, but that of course was the 80s. So it was years ago, but yes. The Shamrocker says, end qualified immunity and end the drug war. So many problems solved. Yes. And this is another piece, right? The system. Why does every cop have to go out and hunt for the drug war? Why do they have to? It's not the right answer, right? I don't want the cops thinking everybody's a drug dealer. And so many of them do. And by the way, that part in no way, shape, or form, to be forward, is racist. I know some people would be angry. The drug war absolutely began because of racism. But now you look at it now it's just the cops are trained to go hunt in poor communities. So you have black people who are doing it. You have Hispanics who are doing it. You have Asians who are doing it. Absolutely. But yes, and change that completely. Yes. Live your life, cause no harm. Well, I like that name. I'm scared because of the fine fee cycle. Once you get in that system, it's hard to get out. Yes. It's another piece also, right? The cops have to make money. We shouldn't be using law enforcement as a profit center. That's one of the other reasons why you have a problem. And a lot of this stems, the recent history is the crime bill, right? Where they put 100,000 cops, Clinton and his crew, put 100,000 cops into poor neighborhoods purposefully to end the war on drugs because that would work. And so now all of a sudden you've got a bunch of cops in black communities. So of course they're having more interactions with black people because we just put 100,000 cops in black communities. Yeah, kind of how that works. Not surprised on that one. But that bill only paid for the cops for 2 years. That was federal funds for 2 years. After that, there were no more federal funds. So now you got to find a way to pay for all those cops. Enter enter civil asset forfeiture. Now you got to hunt to eat. And once you made cops pirates, once you made cops, have to become a profit center, you find them doing a bunch of raids and the fine fee cycle, as he mentions, right? You get a fine for $50. Well, you can't afford $50, so you wait a month. Well, now you get fees on top of the 50, which now makes it, now it's $100. We can only put 50 on it now, so now you still owe 50. But the 50 only goes towards the fee, the fine, not the actual fee. So next month you get another fine, another fee of $50, and it's a cycle. You're paying $50 forever. You just keep paying $50, keep paying $50, keep paying $50 forever. And if you miss another month, now you're paying $150. Now you're paying $100, and it keeps going. And then they do a great thing, like they take your driver's license. So now you can't make money. So when you get arrested, you get another license for not, you get another arrest for not having a license, and on and on and on. You're totally correct. That part is terrible. Also, yes. Obit, submit, conform to authority, never question or challenge. Be a good subject. There's a part to that, Paul, that I agree with. Right, the idea that because a cop gives you an order and you disobey the order, now in many people's minds, the sentence is death, and that's okay. You hear people say it. Well, he's resisting arrest, so he should be shot. And you will find people go, yeah, this piece drives me crazy. This does. Wise man. Thank you, sir. I hope that was for me. If it wasn't, I'm going to take it anyway. So thank you. Yes. It's always the officer needs to make it home at the end of his or her day. Everyone else deserves to go home point blank. Everyone deserves. I agree. And, I remember one of my jobs I had when I came back to New York. I had a job working for the former police commissioner of New York, Bill Bratton. Some of you may remember him. He was a police commissioner in the 90s under Giuliani. And I remember, seeing TV shows and watching videos and such. And the police chief or whatever the leader was at the beginning of the shift would say something like, "Be safe out there. Make sure you come home." Right? That every shift like that, like, you get war out there. Get them before they get us. That was the kind of thing they would say. Bill Bratton didn't. He would end the meetings with, "Go forth and do good things." That's what he would say. I still remember that. And that was 30 years ago. I don't remember how long it was, a while ago. Maybe 30 years ago. Maybe it was 30 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, when I worked for him. He wasn't a cop then. He left the police force, went in the private world for a little bit. I worked for him then, and then he went off and went back to the policing again because he was good at that. But he actually said that. And I don't see that mindset in most police forces. Some, I'm sure, but the ones I see, it's more like, get them before they get you. So we've got to change that mindset, right? That's the issue. So Andrew says, we do need police reform by firing the racist cops or by having the applicants to be cops go through extensive training. We also need to keep funding the police. Yes, defunding the police is a terrible idea. I know people are hot about that, but that goes to, let's just punish the cops. That's not going to work. I get the emotion. When I see this stuff, I'm unhappy too. But if you look at those two cops and you see how they reacted, right? And this is just an anecdote, but I think you've seen it most of the time. There's almost always one asshole cop and the others kind of don't know what to do and kind of stand around and by default become accomplices. You start getting rid of those asshole cops. I think you're right, Andrew. The rest of the cops, they're just regular people. They're just humans like us. They're trying to do a job. Get rid of one bad guy, and the rest of them are like, oh, good. So we don't have to shoot everybody and pull our weapon out every time and be afraid of everything. We don't. Good. I didn't like that guy anyway. So you're totally right. Yes. And I think scenario training is critical. Just critical. As a Marine, I got it. I'm sure you veterans, you got it. You got scenario training. You get the training that said, okay, now what happens? You got ambush training, all those things. And I remember this story from the 90s. This was, and to show you what I mean by scenario training, story from the 90s. I was a Marine in the 80s. And so a story from later on in the 90s. And it was a story about Marines fighting in Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia at the time. There was still civil war then, Clinton years at that time. And there was a unit they had put ashore. They didn't have enough infantry. So they sent an artillery unit ashore. I was an artillery also. And they sent them ashore and they got ambushed. They got ambushed by, I guess, Serbians, or I forgot who the bad guys were. I don't remember anymore. Whoever the bad guys were. Whoever the government told us were the bad guys, those people were ambushed. And the Marines, out of instinct, out of training, charged the ambush and broke the ambush and captured them. So they were ambushed and the Marines captured the ambushers, right? So that actually happened. And it happened not because they weren't afraid. Because their training was, they'd done so much scenario training. And I had too. Even when I wasn't in the infantry, I did infantry training in the Marine Corps when I wasn't in infantry. That kind of scenario training is what has to happen with police. They've got to know how to deal with this. There are times when a cop should be afraid. That's not every time. Just isn't. So yes. Easy to be scared if you're alive. Valid point. Valid point. And I want, in my perfect world, I want more people to be alive. That's what I want. So yes, training should be in driver's education and police training. I'll buy that. Yep. I like the idea of community policing. I do. I think it's awesome. I think you should be policed the way you want to. Yes. Just about every tree has a bad apple. Agreed. And the problem is, and you're seeing this already with the new rules they're trying to come up with, which actually makes sense. Good police reform. And that good police reform is you have to have transparency on your record. So that when you have this bad cop, because I don't know this cop was named I forgot his name. The cop we just saw, whatever his name was. I'm gonna call him Jerk Cop. When Jerk Cop, did what he did. This isn't the first time. I don't have to know, but I know he has a record, and so do you. You know that guy has a record. You know that guy's a jerk. You know he's got a record, and that bad apple is spoiling everything. When they should have got rid of him years ago, right? If they got rid of him, what would have happened if there were no cameras? They'd have done that. That officer would have walked away, and that young cop who had seemed to have some common sense, that cop would have been like, oh, this is how we do things. This is the way. Oh, we're mobsters. Oh, shit, all right, I guess we're mobsters. Now he's thinking, oh, I thought this guy was a jerk. I thought this was the wrong way of policing people. Good. I completely agree. You're going to have bad cops. You have bad everything. Let's fix it. That's the issue. So thank you. Cops are prejudiced and racist. Most of them are. It's how the country is. You need to have more black cops. Look at black people as criminals. Well, there's the problem with that is black cops kill black people too, right? Not as much, but they do. So I think there's a point to what you're saying is that if we had, more black cops, would they see black people less as criminals? I'm unsure that's not enough. How about that? That might help. Maybe. The problem is many of these police chiefs are black, mayors are black, a big chunk of the police force are black, and they still have problems, right? I mean, there are more black cops now than they've ever been, more black police chiefs, more black mayors than they've ever been, and we still have these problems. This is systemic. This isn't enough just to be, and I go back to it. It's the number one thing here in today's world that's affecting this is the war on drugs. Hands down. Number one thing is the war on drugs. There are many other issues too. I'm not saying it's the only thing. It isn't the only thing. It's the biggest thing. This, since the 70s, now maybe 80s, even more, since the 80s and 90s heavily, it has turned our police force into a militarized force that hunts to pay for itself. That's because of the drug war. I can't imagine the average cop going into the academy, young, motivated cop going into the academy going, man, I can't wait to be a profit center. No, they're going in thinking one or two things. They either went, oh, this is a great job. I'm glad I'm a cop. It's a great job. Option one, or option two, I want to do the right thing. I'm happy to be a cop. I want to be one of the good guys and get the bad guys. Both are fine attitudes for going into the police academy. Are police really going in going, can't wait to be a profit center. Can't wait to beat up black people. I mean, I'm sure there's a jerk who does think that, but that guy's whatever, 1 in 1,000 or whatever that number is. The average guy or gal goes in because they either think I have a good job or want to do the right thing. And then systemically, they are then turned over time. And I'm not joking on this. And I saw it. I saw it in the 70s in a different way. My father was in law enforcement. He was first a cop in a subway near New York City, and then he was a corrections officer on Rikers Island. So he had friends who were still active in the police force. And one of them was a guy who went undercover. An undercover cop, drugs, narcotics types thing. And when he came out about 2 years later. Oh my God, he was a different person. He was someone who thought everybody was bad. He would travel with me around the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx at the time, and he'd be pointing at people and telling me what their crimes were. He never met them. He was going, yeah, her, yeah, she's this. Or him, yeah, he's that. Or him, yeah, he does that. Like, she's like, he didn't know them. This was him blatantly just profiling people. And they were all black and Hispanic. Where I grew up, everybody was black and Hispanic. There were a couple people who were white or Asian here or there. A couple people in the South Bronx, those who don't know, years ago, like in the 40s and the 50s, it was actually a very big Jewish community. I grew up in the 70s. So the only people who were Jewish who left were the older people, retirees who just didn't want to leave. And they was there. Most of the younger Jewish population already left. But some of the older Jewish population was still there. So you had a couple of older Jewish men and women, a couple of Asians here or there, Chinese, Indian, Asian, East Asian, maybe a couple of them here or there. Most of the neighborhood was black or Hispanic. And he'd be pointing them out. So I get what you're saying. It's not the answer. There are bigger issues that are pushing people into taking these actions. They just shouldn't be so afraid. The cops were bad to mess with vets like this in Jackson, from what I heard. Yeah, I mean, do you really want to mess with uniform? And he's an Army officer, which is worse for the cop, right? The officer corps has even more influence. It's really a problem. The Virginia officer was asshat, correct? I think this PO has an issue with Army officers. I think he had a lot of issues. He's a bad guy. He's the example of the bad guy. Tom says, guns out for license plate. Yes, thank you, Tom. Why is your gun out for a license plate? Why is your gun out? Absolutely. I completely agree. First, the first cop said felony vehicle violation that made them pull the gun. They did not stop on the dark road. That was their story excuse. False reporting. It's not a felony. Yeah, it's a blatant lie. You're correct. That's the next thing, right? That's how I know this guy's a piece of garbage, and I'm glad he's fired because he knew how to lie and when to lie and his bogus report. That guy's been screwing people for decades. That guy's been screwing people over for decades, and now he's gone. I'm happy, but that isn't enough because there's more of him out there, and we have to weed them out. I completely agree. That's terrible. Yes. So, all right, let me show you another one I want to bring up if I can. This is how MSNBC responds to this. And I get the fear. I do. The problem is what I never hear in any of these is an actual answer.
Yamiche, on that front, what's the reaction today from the White House?
This is from the White House.
Biden says that he has seen this video and that it was troubling, and that he is waiting to see what the investigation yields. He said that he's praying for this family, hasn't reached out to the family yet.
But this part, I'm going to give Joe Biden some credit on this one. I am. I'm going to give him some credit. I think he might have learned from Obama, and Obama made many errors in this regard. Biden simply said, I'm going to wait until the investigation. That was smart. And to be, realistic and give him credit, it's the right answer, right? As much as I look at that officer and I think that officer's a piece of garbage, he deserves due process. He deserves due process. Now, this one we're talking about, the other guy, Dante, him being shot. And supposedly the woman who shot him was the officer who shot him. She thought that she had her taser and she used her pistol instead. Now, this goes back to exactly what I was talking about. If you remember that scene, she pulls out her gun because the kid's running. The kid's scared. Again, fear and fear. The common denominator, fear and fear. The kid was scared. They pulled him over. If you guys, I'm sorry, Dante Wright. When they pulled him over, it was because his tags were expired. They didn't come out guns a-blazing. So the cops did the right thing. They did not come out guns a-blazing. They just came out, hey, let's talk, as cops should do. He got scared because he had a warrant. So they were getting ready to arrest him, and he got scared. So he ran. That was stupid. That was stupid. But now she pulls what she says is her taser, but she pulls her gun and fires. Are you telling me you're so poorly trained that in that stress that you screwed up? I'm not saying she didn't. To be fair with you, in this one, it looks like it was actually an accident. That's what it looks like to me. The investigation will show, but it looks like to me it was an accident. I think that's why the police chief showed. I think that's why the city manager said, let's wait until due process, because she deserves due process also. Let me say it again. Everybody deserves due process, no matter what they do, no matter who they are, you deserve due process. That other guy who did the army officer, that guy's a piece of garbage and he deserves due process. I think this cop here in Dante Wright, I think she just screwed up. Still, she paid the price if there's a price to pay. Absolutely. I just think that was malicious. I think, yet again, afraid. Why are you so afraid? And I would ask the cops in that case, why are you afraid he'll get away? He wasn't going for a gun to kill you. He was trying to run away. You were so afraid you had to shoot him? What's the worst that would have happened? The worst that would have happened is he was able to push off 3 cops and drive off, handcuffed. I don't know how he was going to do that, but for the sake of argument, that's the worst case scenario. He drives off with your handcuffs. That's the worst case. You know where he's going. You got his car and license plate. You could chase him at home anyway. So that's the worst. Why were you so afraid? Do you think he was going to turn around and kill you all? What kind of training is this? And I know I've had guests on who said it's not training, Larry. I think it is. It's training and it's culture. And you've got to get the people. I don't want him, I mean the guy in the car, to be so afraid. And I don't want the cops to be afraid. De-escalation's everything. And it's 3 cops to 1 guy. Why are you afraid? And you've all got guns. There's three of you. You all got guns, and you're afraid. Why are our cops so afraid? What are they teaching them? What are they putting in their heads? It drives me crazy. I don't know why. We were trained in the Marine Corps to not be afraid. To not be afraid. And I'll give you one of the movies that, of course, was, of course I'm going to like it. It's a Navy SEAL Marine Corps movie. Was the Lone Survivor movie. And if you ever seen that movie, they're outgunned massively. I mean, massively. And they keep attacking because they're not afraid. They're taught to not be afraid. They're not randomly aggressive. They're aggressive on purpose, with a mission, on purpose to do what they have to do. They attack. I mean, of course, Lone Survivor, all but one dies, but that's what they're trained to do. Black Hawk Down. These snipers went into the fray, right? Not afraid. Why can't we train our cops similarly to not be so afraid? I think we can. They're just people, just like Marines and sailors and soldiers. Just people. Train them effectively.
But the White House, on a bigger note, also says that they're pushing to get this George Floyd Justice and Policing Act through Congress.
Yes, the Justice and Policing Act, right? Is federal really the answer? If you want to do something on a federal level, you know what you should do? Take cannabis off of Schedule 1. Why don't you do that? Take cannabis off Schedule 1. Do that. That's the thing I want to be done at a federal level. I want cannabis to be taken off, right? That's what I want. Do that.
Saying that they're very, very focused on policing, very, very focused on trying to solve this issue. But I have to tell you, Nicole, in watching this video of Dwayne Wright, a 20-year-old being shot by this police officer, it is the nightmare that America.
Now, I'm agreeing with you. It's terrible. It's 100%. I feel terrible for this kid. So let's say we have justice, whatever that means. What about justice the other night, right? How that's not a real thing. But so now we put the female cop in jail for whatever. What did that solve? What did it solve? She goes to jail for whatever, 2 years or whatever time she spends in jail, whatever that is. Okay, great. Her career's over. From what it looks like, she made a mistake. I'm not saying that's true. Investigation will show. But it looks like she made a mistake. She loses her career. She loses 2 years of her life. He lost his life. Nobody gets anything back. Nobody wins. Nothing's changed. Here's what I guarantee you. A week later, the same thing happens. How do we know? This stuff is happening in Minnesota, where the George Floyd trial is happening, and it's still happening. If you don't change the system, justice doesn't matter. Justice doesn't matter if you don't change the system. This becomes an eye for an eye, and we all go blind. I'd like to not go blind.
African Americans in this country are living and experiencing over and over and over again.
And this is the other hard part, right? And I'm torn on this. I get that you want to show what's happening. I do. But man, if you're watching this, why wouldn't you be afraid? This is the same as CNN did with COVID, right? Now, again, not that COVID wasn't a real thing. And it still is a real thing. COVID's a real thing. If you're watching CNN, it's literally killing the entire world. There's a body count. How many people are dying from COVID every day? Oh my God. CNN made it like COVID was going to just go through New York City and slaughter every firstborn son. I mean, it was horrible. Of course people were afraid. You watched people go nuts over COVID. Think it's going to kill everybody. You watched them. Well, MSNBC and CNN are doing this now. Well, can you blame the Black community for being afraid? You watch this every day on CNN and MSNBC. Well, now you're thinking I'm going to go outside and the cop's going to shoot me too. Of course you think that. You watch this every day. Of course you do. Just like COVID is going to kill everybody. Now the cops are going to kill everybody. I get they're trying to report. They're not helping. They're making the fear even greater. And in the right, there's the opposite. There's a war on cops. Everyone's trying to kill the cops. They're acting like that. They're acting up. They're helping the cops be afraid. MSNBC's helping every Black person be afraid. Where's the solution?
This shooting reminds me so much of the shooting of Oscar Grant that was on New Year's Day in 2009, where a police officer shot that young man in California on a train station. That police officer.
And then, and still, of course, we still have COVID lockdowns everywhere. So why wouldn't people be out protesting? It's the mission of the day. I'm very serious. It's the mission of the day. We've set this system up. This is a self-inflicted wound. All of these things can be repaired.
11 months in prison. I interviewed the family of Oscar Grant and his children. To this day, when they see police officers, they duck because they are so traumatized by what happened to Oscar Grant. And here we are.
Yeah, but that's their family. I get that. My worry is for people who, look, if someone you love is shot by a cop, I get how you'd be traumatized. Particularly if you like Philando Castile and you watched the cop murder your father. Yeah, of course you're traumatized. Of course you are. Who wouldn't be? But we're traumatizing everybody with this. Like, we're traumatizing the world now. It's not helpful.
Are again watching another young man lose his life. In this trial, we've watched George Floyd die over and over again from so many different angles. And here we are again now having to watch another person die. I just think that there is, of course, this robust conversation happening about what the
I like the robust conversation. I do. I'm having one now, I hope, with you. But note the one thing no one's saying. End the drug war. Change police training. How about those two? Critical piece. End the drug war. Right? Absolutely. So, yes. Let me keep going if I can. Makaro says, if reach for the belt buckle, he will be shot. That does happen. Yes. Absolutely. Matt says he stated he feared for his life. I mean, only natural with two scared men pointing gun. Yes. I'm asking any of you, how would you think? Right? How would you think? Yeah, absolutely. All right, here. Adam says the media has portrayed anyone wearing camo as a mass shooter for a while now. Ooh, Adam, I hadn't thought of that. That's a valid point. But do cops think that? I mean, other kids, they weren't wearing camo. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. The vet told them he was afraid. What is most important is that the cop's response, you should be. Thank you. Yes. The cop should have said, no need. Put the gun down. Right? I mean, think if it's you. You're the cop. And you're afraid. You're afraid this could be some drug dealer with an AK-47 or whatever you've been told. So you're worried. You got to walk out there anyway. The guy has both hands out in the air. Why would you think the gun should be there? Now you've got guns pointed at him. Right? At this point, you put both your guns pointed at him. And he's just saying, I'm afraid. You now see that there's no one else in the car. Why are the guns still out? What about de-escalation? Why do they go so hard, so fast? Yeah. The politicians cut funding for quality police training. That's why the defund the police is not going to work, James. Thank you. Let's not defund the police. Let's train them better. How about that? I know, crazy, right? I'm the crazy one. I'm the nutty one. Yes. Nate says, if I use words I wanted to describe the bravery of cops, I'd be banned from Facebook. Don't get banned, Nate. Don't get banned. Michael says police officers need to have a career with considerations because many videos prove how incompetent they handle the situation. I see why Lieutenant didn't even unbuckle the seatbelt. This is a valid point too, Michael, to be forward. Being a cop is a hard job, and not everybody should be a cop. That's true. If you can't handle it, you should change careers. Absolutely. But it's the second piece here. And I brought this up when I talked about how to reform police. Why do we keep police on the front line so long? It's a common thing, right? Cops get burned out. Again, cops are just human beings. They get burned out like anybody else. You don't keep a Marine on the front line for, I think the maximum Marines are ever on the front line is 15 months. That's like the maximum. They usually less, but the max they'll ever be on is 15 months. Then they're out. There's someplace else. They take them away for a little bit, right? Go to the garrison, do whatever, get back into the field a year or two later. The earliest you'll go back is 6 months. That's the earliest. Usually it's a year or two later. So they give you time to decompress, to not be in a combat zone. Well, now you put cops on the front line for 10, 15 years. What's going to happen? It's a recipe for failure. So how about changing that around too? Same issue. Yes. Bouncers never seem to have a problem not killing belligerent people in a club without weapons. Wow, Jan. Valid point. And if you watched Roadhouse, the old movie from the 80s with Patrick Swayze, you would know that you want to de-escalate whenever possible. Be nice, be polite. See, Patrick Swayze can teach us all, even in death. Yes. Jimmy says the training for police has changed over the decades. They are trained the same as a soldier fighting in Iraq. All American citizens are not terrorists and should be treated as such. Yeah. Well, you know what? Thank you, Jimmy, for bringing that up, because I should change how I said this. I was saying they should have scenario training like in the military. And what I meant was I should be clearer. The appropriate scenarios, right? So in the military, you're going to have scenarios with when do you shoot civilians? When do you not shoot civilians? Hopefully never. So how do you deal with those issues? How do you decide, from what is another? I remember in the when I was in the 80s in the Marine Corps, learning how to call artillery. They gave us silhouette training, so we know what was a civilian car and what was a Russian tank. We were fighting the Soviets in the 80s, so I was learned like a silhouette. I could tell a Russian BMP, a Russian T-90, a Russian T-80. Like I could tell the difference between the tanks by silhouette, right? They taught us this so that we know what we're attacking. We're not trying to attack somebody's car. We're attacking a military target, right? That was our goal. So we learned these things. So I think something like that has to happen with the cops, right? We were taught how to go into a building, how to clear a room, all those things, and we went over it every year. We did it every 6 months to a year. We just kept doing it until we felt good at it. I mean, I feel like I can still do it now. I have no idea if I could. That was 30 years ago, but I feel like the confidence that I still have to this day, being a 50-something-year-old man, I still feel like I could go in and take a room now because I learned so much of it in the Marine Corps so often. Cops should have that same training, but for pulling people over or for checking someone for weapons or for cuffing somebody, all those things. Yes, a lot of it. This to me, I'm Lieutenant, the most driving while black pullover I've ever seen. Wow. Wow. Jericho says, I wish our lawmakers would realize that every time they create a new law that someone has to enforce that. Yes, absolutely. Why do we keep putting the public and the police in these positions? If you put people in desperate positions will act desperately. That's how that works. Change the system and we change the whole thing. Absolutely. Yes. Nothing de-escalates like two cops screaming conflicting orders at you while pointing guns at you. Yeah. Yeah. But I feel, look, I've only seen the video, so I wasn't there, obviously. But I feel like the younger cop had he had a clear head. I feel like it. Obviously I could be wrong. And why isn't it in a way that, why don't we have an environment with a cop who's got the clear head and go, dude, step down, man. Why didn't that happen with Chauvin? Why didn't that Asian guy the Asian cop who was standing there, why didn't he go, Chauvin, get up, man. Stop this. I got this. I got him. He's good. I got him. He's cuffed. Move on. Why didn't he do that? Because our environment doesn't, our culture doesn't do that. Because the police are not taught that way. And they should be, right? They should be taught that way. Guys down. And look, this is the other issue. You got 2 or 3 cops there. If I'm wrestling with some guy or some gal to put her down, I'm going to be hyped up because I just was wrestling with some guy. Maybe he had a knife, maybe a gun. Who knows? I'm going to be hyped. Of course I'm going to be hyped. Of course I am. And I may want to put my knee on his neck or whatever stupidity I might want to do. Well, then that's why the other cops had to go. Thank you, Officer Sharpe, for putting him down. I got of me. You go cool off. Let me handle this guy now. We don't do that. That's what we should be doing. And we're not. We're totally not. Again, I keep going back to the Marine Corps. When I was a Marine, I was taught if there are 2 Marines, one of you's in charge. Done. Someone's always in charge and responsible, no matter what. And when one screws up, the other one steps in. That's what you're supposed to do. So, yeah. Bad. John says, never point a firearm at anything you aren't willing to destroy. Very words to live by, John. I agree. I don't want to pull out that gun at all until I'm like, I need to. That should be the last. It's so often the first. Yes, absolutely. So yes. Maybe they have the wrong training and too much of the bad training. I think that's probably true, right? I've seen some videos on this, and maybe I'll look at that. Thank you, Scott, for this. I may be looking at this. I've seen some videos on, there was someone who was saying that cops are trained poorly, that cops are trained to use the gun and to be afraid. Someone told me, I saw a video on that. That's someone told me. I saw a video on that. I don't know how real it is. Let me check that out. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Yes. The cop may have been afraid, but the law enforcement officer also looked like he was looking for a fight too, at least in my opinion. The army officer looked terrified. Yes, and yes, that cop's a bad cop. He should leave. Yes. John says, I'm pretty sure they can ask you about your vehicle. I'm sure they can. And most of the time, if a cop gives you an order that the cop believes is within, enforcing the law, it's a lawful order. Generally speaking, that's true. Right. So yes, I'm not against at all them asking to get out of the car. I don't like it, but I get it. They might have thought, he's got some guys in the car or whatever. Maybe. Okay. My only question is, John, you didn't have to go in there guns a-blazing. You could have just, and the young cop eventually did, he just walked over and said, come on, guy, come on, get out the car. He was calm and just said, do it. That's the better way, John. It's the better way. Yes. Eric says, did you watch the body cam because it's a bit different? I think I did, if I remember. Yeah, I think I did watch the body cam. There was one of the videos I saw did have body cam on it. Yes. And it goes on to the same thing, right? Even with the body cam, the piece was they came out guns a-blazing. That's my issue. And his hands were out. Yes. Been there. One says, don't move. The second said, get down on the ground. A third hit me in the head with the barrel of a short cycle shotgun. Yes. I've heard this many times. And it's 3 scared cops. And I don't know why they're so damn scared. There's 3 of them and 1 of you. They got guns. Why are they scared? Right? If you ever seen the mobsters in the movies, right? And I happen to know in the past a couple of people who were connected, I'll say. They were calm. Like, they were never hyped. Ever hyped. They were calm. They were like, no. I'm the man and I got power. And I don't have to be scared because I got all the power and you got nothing. And that's how a confident person acts. Cops should be more that way. They have all the power. I don't know why they're so scared. They have all the power. So, yes. See if I can keep going here if I can. Let's see here. Because they led him on a 1.5 mile chase. That's not actually true. And then he expressed why. He actually was going very slow and just going to a lighted area. That's not a 1.5 mile chase. They literally said he was going very slow. Why was he going slow? So they wouldn't lose him. So that's not a chase. Would be he's going 80 miles an hour trying to escape. No, he was going, they said it. He was going very slow, which shows that he was not trying to escape. He wanted to go to a lighted area because he was afraid for his life. Why? He probably watches MSNBC and watches them say how every cop is killing people every day and just shooting people all day long. So he's scared. I get it. Yes. The lieutenant asked logical questions. I see an escalated use of force. Yes, that's what happened. I agree. Yes. Yes. Police officers need about as much training as military personnel, but do police officers in these videos are unprofessional? It's true. Absolutely. They are. Absolutely. So I also think they need to change the psychological profile they pull from. Oh, interesting idea. But, is that discrimination? But I get where you're going with that, right? Do you look for a psychological piece which says, these people are more likely to escalate or more likely to de-escalate? The only problem is, is that discriminatory? And maybe it is. Maybe it's okay, but I like the idea. Conceptually, I like it. I'd have to walk down that road a little longer to really think if that makes sense. So watch this video. Disappointed, Larry. You know what? I'll watch it. I will watch this video, Judson. I will watch it. Maybe I'm wrong here. I've been wrong before. Maybe I'm wrong here. But what I see, I'm telling you what I see. I see fear, unnecessary fear, in both the people being pulled over and in the cops pulling them over. That's what I constantly see. The fear needs to go away. If the fear goes away, the violence goes away. The escalation goes away. De-escalation is the key. That's the issue. De-escalation is the key. Yes. So let's see here. Jan says, we have a military police union who mostly polices themselves. I'm afraid of police today. Wow. I'm generally not afraid of police, generally, but a little bit, but generally not. I haven't been detained much as an adult, but as a youngster here or there. I got in trouble as a youngster here or there, but not much as an adult. So I'm generally not afraid of cops, and I tend to be good with cops in general. So I haven't had that many problems. But I try not to be fearful, and I'm good at de-escalating, right? That's one of the skill sets that I have in my communication skills. I tend to be good at de-escalating. So I feel that if I ever got into a position where someone was pointing a gun at me, that unless they were trying to kill me, right? If someone's trying to kill me, I'm done. But if they're not trying to kill me, I feel like I could de-escalate relatively well. The average person can't always do that, right? I think that's really it. Yeah. John says, I think he was calm and making good and thoughtful comments. He was never disrespectful. They were completely out of line and should be fired as soon as supervisor sees this footage. Yeah, I'm torn on the second guy. I know it's going to sound bad, so you're going to be mad at me for saying it, but I'm torn on the second guy. That first guy, John, he's a jerk. You could tell by the way he was talking. He's done this before. He's a bad cop. Was the other guy? Maybe. I don't want to, maybe. But I'm not so upset at the other guy, if that makes any sense. I'm more open to he might be salvageable. But the first guy's got to go. He's a bad cop. He shouldn't be a cop. So, yes. So, jury nullification is the only thing that could save him at that point. Yeah. And to do that, he's got to spend 1.5 years in jail and have his record trashed as a lieutenant in the Army. But yeah, you're right. That's it. Brennan says, true. Fear is the answer. However, policing are dealing with adult children who were never disciplined. That, yes, it's fear on both sides, Brandon. It's fear on both sides. Absolutely. It is fear on both sides. Yes. Jody says they don't need the benefit of the doubt. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, Jody. I know people get upset at me when I do this, but I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I want to. And I want to get rid of the bad guys and move on to the next one. So if the cop is that scared, he should not be working the road. James, thank you. Yes. Yes. Why are you working the road if you're that scared? You should sit at the desk for a little bit. Take a look, and I don't know what the guy's background. I mean, that guy's a jerk, but I don't know what, guy A or gal B is, what they've just seen. Cops have a difficult job. They see all kinds of crap. Who knows what the hell they just saw? You know what? When you start getting into that spot, take a desk job for 1 year. Get your head straight. You're just a person, and then head back out into the field. I agree. He should be working on the road. The guy who murdered Philando Castile should not have been on the road. That guy should have been a desk job for at least 1 year, getting whatever the hell was in his head out. Absolutely out. So Jody's not happy at me. You mad at me, Jody? Sorry. Yeah. So that gives him an excuse to yank him out of the car. No, it doesn't. I'm just being realistic. There's no excuse. You don't have to yank a guy out of the car. Absolutely. That could have been a conversation. That could have been a conversation. That's all it had to be. It could have been a conversation. It could have been a back and forth talk, a conversation. It could have been that. So, fear caused George Floyd to die too. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%. Fear causes all of this stuff, right? All the time. So, yes. Christine says, I'm from Arizona. I've seen the windows. Am I scary? Christine, you are scary. So yes, but I hope that cops treat you well. How about that? I've seen you comment on the show before. You are scary, but it's fine. Matt says, if I hear one person say, if they just comply, this would not have happened, nonviolent, non-compliance is not an excuse for this kind of behavior. And that's the point too, right? I do get this, and I agree with you completely. Comply or die is not the right answer. Comply or die is the right answer. And if that means as a cop, you have to take more time talking, calming, convincing the person, then take more time. What if that stop had to take 20 minutes versus 5? Then take more time. That's literally what you're being paid for. probably with that guy's taxpayer money is probably paying you, right? The guy you're pulling over, that guy might be paying tax salary. Your job is to do that. So take your time. You have a choice. Take an extra 20 minutes or shoot somebody. I'm going to go with the 20 minutes. That's my choice. I'm going to go with the 20 minutes. Yes. Michael says, police also trying to cover their own as well as fabricating their testimonies as an excuse to apprehend people. I got to tell you, I think I'm seeing a change. Michael, I think we're seeing a change. If you look at what's happening in the Chauvin trial, there are cops who are saying, no, this is a bad cop. They're saying Chauvin's a bad cop. I think this is the future. Finally, good cops and apathetic cops are finally going, no, this guy's a bad guy. Wait, we can get rid of these bad cops? Good. I thought that guy was an ass anyway. I'm glad we can fire him, get rid of him. And I think we're finding more of that. And we need more of that. And this is the issue that you will find me often complain. This is my complaint about cops more than anything. If you had, I don't know, doctors, lawyers, teachers, insert profession, whatever it is, and there's a bad one, the other doctors or lawyer teachers say, yeah, that's a bad teacher. That's a bad doctor. That's a bad lawyer. They'll say it. I've heard them. You've heard them go, don't go to that lawyer. He's terrible. That guy's he's terrible what he does. No work ethic. Well, that guy's a bad guy, right? The doctor, oh, she's terrible. Don't go to her. She doesn't pay attention, blah, blah. Whatever. Well, the truck driver, that guy's terrible truck driver. Whatever. Insert thing. They'll say it. But prior to Chauvin, try to find cops to say, yeah, he's a bad cop. That guy's a bad cop. She's a terrible cop. Get rid of her. She's terrible. Hard to find. Not so much now, right? If we can change that mindset, we can have better police force. We really can. I'm not get rid of all the cops. I'm gonna get rid of the bad cops. And the system is against that completely. And that's why they stay and keep infecting. That's why they do it. Yes. So let's see here. This is so similar to what happened to me. I was in a seatbelt in the passenger seat and was yanked out, beaten and cuffed for no reason. I still fear cops today. Why were they so aggressive? Jimmy, that's the point. Why are they so aggressive? Why are they so afraid? I don't know. Yeah. The idea that both officers saw the tag, the reason for the stop was answered, but they kept going. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yes. Was the other officer lower ranking? I think he had to be because he was junior in everything he was doing. I think he had to be lower ranking. But lower ranking or not, even if he was a rookie cop or a newbie, there should be an environment. You should say it, right? I mean, we talk about this again. I'll talk about it's a different issue, but it's the same. When as Marines or sailors, we go to port and we're in a foreign port. And they'd go outside, they'd go they get shore leave, and we go out. And very often I was shore duty because I don't drink. So I would often be the shore duty guy, shore patrol. I'd be shore patrol, the SP arm and the billy club and the white thing. That's me, right? I was very often the shore patrol when we'd go out. We'd be in the, Philippines or Korea or someplace. And I'd often be shore patrol. And my rank didn't matter. I was a corporal then. Sergeant too, maybe corporal sergeant. And my rank didn't matter. I could take a gunnery sergeant, like the lieutenant out. Why? Because I was doing the right thing for them to get them back on the base. And I wouldn't get angry. Nobody be mad at me. There's no charges. If I see some, officer doing something stupid out in town, I can grab the officer and put him back on the base, put him back on the ship, right? We get him back on the ship, get him back on the base, get him back where he's got to go, get him out. Cops should have a similar system. So if the senior officer is doing something stupid, the young officer goes, dude, stop. That's stupid. I got this. We had that in the Marine Corps. Why can't you have it in the police force? You can. And there was no rule on that. It wasn't like there was a rule. We just knew it. That's what happened. So if I grab some lieutenant who's doing something stupid out in town, and I grab him and get him back to the ship, I'm not getting in trouble for that. In fact, the officer's like, thank you. I didn't get arrested by the local authorities. You the man, Corporal. Thank you. Why can't we have that same concept? I think we can. And for those of you who've been on port calls, you know what I'm talking about. So yes. All right. Matt says, I can't stand bad cops. I respect good cops who put up with it so much. I directed at them what the bad cops do. See, they got to change, Matt, and they are changing. The good cops have got to change. They got to say, no, that's the bad cop. Get rid of him. If they don't, what are we doing? They have to. They have to. Yes. Jericho says, and always seem to find drugs in the center console because everyone leaves chugs in plain sight when they get pulled over. Yeah. Yeah. That's very good. Jody says, remove civil asset forfeiture. Yes, yes, yes. End the war on drugs. Yes, yes, yes. Adam says, yeah, the younger cop looks like he started thinking twice about halfway through. See, I think that's true. And again, I'm only going by just looking at the video. It looked like the younger cop was like, yeah, this is going wrong. And he didn't do anything. At the end, he did, but too late. But they need to have an environment to where the young cop steps in and says, no, don't do this. I got this. Go sit down. You are pissed off. What's wrong with you? Chill out. That's the issue. Yes. So let me keep going here. Hopefully this promotes the abolition of qualified immunity and police unions. The pigs will quit so fast that makes head spin. I don't want to go that route, right? I don't want to be negative like that. I don't want all the cops to leave. I'm not trying to get people to lose their jobs. What I'm trying to do is have better cops and have the kind of policing that you want in your environment. You should be policed the way you want to be policed. That's the issue. Yes. So, all right. See if I can grab this. A couple of these. So many that I appreciate these. John says, my father, retired cop during my youth, was miserable for a month. I had no idea why. Found out he took a 9-year-old girl out of a burning home. Due to the snow, they couldn't get an ambulance or medical staff there. They drove the girl to the hospital and she died in the way. My siblings and I could not figure out why he was so angry for a month. We all took around him for a month. Yeah, cops see a lot of horrible stuff, man. You're right, John. They see a lot of horrible stuff. They have to do a whole lot. They're just people. Your father is just a human being. He's just a man. And stuff messes with him like it messes with everybody else. And why in the world, if I'm his partner, if I'm your dad's partner, and I know what he just went through, why am I not saying, you know what, let me handle this for a sec. I got this one. Why don't you stay in the car? I got this one. Right? I got this. You stay in the car. Let me deal with this. Will you take care of your stuff? Why aren't we doing that? Why isn't that an environment that was there? I mean, that probably happened with your father. That might have happened. I don't know where your father was a cop, but that might have happened. They might have like said, you know what? Why don't you sit at the desk today? I'm going to go out. Sit at the desk today. Get that stuff out of your head. I mean, that probably took your father a lot of time to process that, right? A lot of time to deal with that, to process that. He probably, if he's still alive, I don't know if your father's still around, if he's still with us, but if he is, I'm sure that's still in his head. It didn't go away. Obviously, he handles it a whole lot better now, but it's probably still in his head. And who knows what's in these other cops' head too. The system doesn't work to support what we're trying to do. That's a problem, right? That's the biggest piece that I see. So, yes. All right, let me see if I can keep going. I think too many cops are adrenaline junkies, bullies, and army washouts that have an inferiority complex to take out. I think some of that is true, right? But that's a piece. So if that's a piece and you know it, well, you should be preparing for that, right? If you know that's where you are, and you actually have that also in someplace else, people not finance. The finance world's also full of adrenaline junkies, bullies, and sociopaths. The finance industry is also full of that. And I work with them, and I know that. So I act accordingly. So I think if that's true, then why don't they have systems to weed those people out or to handle them? I totally agree. Yes. So, all right. Along with the other great ideas you've mentioned, cops need to be trained using the Constitution as a guideline. That's a tough one because so many of the laws they have to enforce are blatantly anti-constitutional. So then what do the cops do, Christine? Right? You've got to change the environment to where the environment is constitutional. And many things they're doing is just not. It's just not. Yes. So let me grab a couple more if I can. Ladder, we have summer weather now. Can we get that 2022 gubernatorial announcement? I said I will announce in the summer what I will do. That's all I'm telling you. Yes. Yes. So do you think private security will become more of a thing in the near future for local enforcement? I don't think private security will. But if we're lucky, we will have an answer to where other people are joining in, right? It's not just cops, it's also community. Markel, yes, thank you, Markwell. Community policing is against. I think that will happen. I think community policing is in the future. I do. And I think it's a better answer. It was part of what I talked about before. With active policing, you have community groups that go along with it, right? Absolutely. Yes. So Sam says, if you're in the field and don't know and don't follow chain of command, you can create safety issues for all. Age/experience lets us know when to speak up or not follow. I sympathize, but hindsight's always 2020. It's a valid point, Sam, but I think if you have a culture of doing that in your environment, I mean, that can be done. An example, which is a business example, is maybe how many of the factories in Japan were run in a way that said anybody on the line can stop the line if they see something that's wrong or unsafe. Now, just because you say that doesn't mean people do it, but there's actually a culture of that. If there's a culture of that, then people don't do it for nothing. And when someone does it, then it's real. So I think culturally is, something that's important. Culturally it is, yes. Can you give an example of unconstitutional laws? Yeah, the entire war on drugs. Yes. Every single aspect of war on drugs. The concept of you going to jail for possessing a plant or possessing, not for selling it, for possessing it. That is a crime. How is that constitutional? The idea that I can kick in your door with a no-knock warrant. How is that constitutional? The idea that I can seize your assets when you're not charged. That's civil asset forfeiture. No, not being charged, not being arrested. I can seize and take your stuff. Unconstitutional. There's so many of them. So I hope that helps as a couple of examples. Yes. A partnership between community and law enforcement. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? I love that idea. I'm not sure we're there yet. That will also take culture and time to move towards that. I think that's really a piece. We're not there yet. Let me I'm gonna grab a quick comment from the White House. This is what the White House is saying here. What their press secretary mentioned based upon this. And a couple seconds only because they don't say anything.
Not on the Policing Commission. Go ahead.
On that, you mentioned, the focus is now on passing the George Floyd Policing Act.
Yep.
It's been over a month since we've heard the president talk about this, though. We haven't seen a big push, at least not publicly, from this administration.
Why in the world do we want so much of a federal answer? Every time there's a problem, we always think it's a federal answer. It's not a federal answer. It is. I stand corrected. It is. Take cannabis off Schedule 1 and the drug war.
What kind of steps are you taking to pressure Congress on this? And should we expect to see this sort of rise on the list of your priorities? You obviously have a very full plate.
We do, but I would say that the president was addressing racial equity, ensuring that we are putting in place.
Yeah, no answer. And that's my point. They asked her 2 or 3 questions, no answer. The answer should be, end the war on drugs. End the war on drugs. The Nooner Eclipse says police abuse, corruption has to do more with classes than racism. I think you're right. It has, to be clear, and I've done if any of you care, you can just Google Larry Sharpe, Columbia War on Drugs. I did probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I did a presentation at Columbia University on the war on drugs and the war on terror. And I bring up the issue on how the system fails us, right? To your point, is the average cop, when they join, any more or less, racist than anybody else? No, they're just regular people. Regular people. They join the academy, and then they head on into their first jobs, whatever those jobs are. And then they're taught, and heavily because of the war on drugs, that they have to have arrests. They have said arrests are all about it. Arrest is what matters. That's how you're told you're a good cop. That's how you get accolades, is by arrests and by collecting money. I'm not joking. That's a thing. How much money are we bringing in? If you see the cops show all the money and pictures of it, all the money and stuff they take, they need that stuff. They're taught that. So where are you going to hunt for that? You're right. In the lower socioeconomic classes. Why? Particularly immigrant communities, poor communities, and communities with high felons in it. Why? They can't fight back. They're scared of the cops. They don't know any better. They carry cash, right? So it winds up being classism, but because so many people who are black and brown are of lower socioeconomic status, it becomes racist when it wasn't supposed to be racist. It was about the money, but because of the way it flows, it then becomes that way. So now you have a guy or a gal who's been in the police force for 10 years now, and for 10 years, they've been hunting in brown and black communities. Well, if you've been hunting in brown and black communities for 10 years, where you start thinking, that's where the bad people are. It's just human nature. The system has made you think that way because your job made you think that way. I don't think any cop, the vast majority of cops aren't going, can't wait to beat up people of color today. They're not doing that. They have a list of where they're going and they're going where they're going. Oh, it happens to be everybody who's black and brown. Oh, well, then that's what it is. So yes. So poor people have all the money? Yes, they have all the cash. Correct. Yes. Poor people have all the cash, not all the money. The wealthy people don't carry cash, right? And not just that. Say you go into a wealthy neighborhood. The person's more apt to donate to politicians. They may know the mayor in a small town. They will carry plastic, not cash. So yes, the poor people have more cash, not necessarily money, but more cash. So you just do more raids, right? If you raid the drug dealers who are in poor neighborhoods, it's a cash business. You raid the drug dealers in the rich neighborhoods, they're not. They're doing, I don't know, Venmo or something, whatever they're doing, right? Whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. But cash is in poor neighborhoods, particularly those who are immigrants who don't trust banks, right? Particularly immigrants. Many immigrants don't trust banks because in their country, the bank was blatantly corrupt and would take their money and just go out of business and take their money. And they have stories of that. So many of them don't trust banks, so they carry cash. Many of them are cash businesses for local bodegas and local stores like that. And the drug trade, right? They're swapping drugs in cash. So poor people don't have all the money, they have all the cash, if that makes any sense. I hope that was clear. So, all right. What do you think about a response? What is racial equity? Racial equity is a buzzword that virtual signals that makes people think that you're woke. I don't think most people really know what that is. I don't know how you even get there. I love the idea. It does sound good, Joshua. It does. It sounds amazing. I love the sound of it. Look, racial equity. See, we're all going to be equal. It does sound good, but I think the actual way you deal with that, I don't think anybody actually knows. It does sound good, though. And lets people know that, I'm on your side. It does that. So, yes. Wealthy people are more typically better educated and are more likely to call a lawyer. Also true. Yes, absolutely. Yes, also true. So it just makes sense to hunt in poorer neighborhoods. It makes sense for that. Yes. John says they push for federal answers and it's accepted because most people don't want to be responsible for themselves in a community. Oh, John, I don't want to hear that. You're probably right, but I don't want to hear it. It doesn't sound good though. They want other people to fix their problems, even though they constantly see it never works. And then people run for office based on those problems, and the cycle continues. Well, that's a downer, but yeah, you're kind of true. Yes, it's kind of true. Yes, equality and equity are different. I agree. But I don't think anyone knows how to get there. Right? Do you know how to get there without just, forcing people to do stuff, without forcing outcomes? It does sound good. It does sound nice. How do you get there without forcibly making people all the same in some way, shape, or form, without taking from some and giving to those you deem, worthy? Is that how you do it? I don't know how you do it. I mean, I can't see a way of doing it, but look, I could be wrong. I'm happy to check it out. It does sound good. My ears are open. Guys, please don't forget the most important one here, the police accountability survey. It's what we're talking about today. We're talking about that right now. So do me a favor. A lot of you are pretty upset and pretty angry and pretty fired up. Okay, then show theadvocates.org what you think about police accountability. Click that link that's in the description right there. Click that link, that description right there. Take that survey. It takes about 5 minutes. That's about it. And then share it. Do that. Make my sponsors happy. Make me happy. You're saying, Larry, I ain't got time for that. Or I took it already. Okay, throw me some cash. Patreon.com/Sharpe Way. $10, $25. Let's keep this going. If you like what I'm saying, if you like what I'm doing and you like the conversation we're having, then support it. $10 a month, $10 a month, $25 a month, whatever's appropriate. Please make that happen. If none of those are possible, you know what you can do? Like, comment, and share. That's free. It's less expensive than Sharpe Way and takes less time than a survey. If you're short on both, the answer is like, comment, and share. If you're only short on time, throw me some cash. If you're only short on cash, throw me some time. If you're short on both, like, comment, and share. Either way, help us out. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to grab a couple of these. And took it already. You took the quiz. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. John says, sorry for being a downer. I just see it that way, especially the younger generation, and I'm only 35. They feel so entitled and they cry about problems, but all they do is post online about it. Yeah, look, you should say what you feel, John. And I'm just kind of teasing you, but I get it. I get it, man. I see it too, right? I see the same thing you see, right? I see the same thing. I do think an answer, though, is community policing, because that forces them to step up into their own area, right? It forces them to do two things. One, to kind of feel what the cops feel, which I think would make many people more sympathetic to all the things that cops have to do, but at the same time, be able to temper a cop who's pissed off or annoyed or having a terrible day, because now they're part of his team. So I really think that will help, because then some people have to step up. And then if they step up, they kind of have to take responsibility, right? It gives them a reason to take responsibility. I think it would help. Jan says community policing is happening. Like, yes, it's a very slow crawl. I agree. Like I said, policing is a business and it's going to become a wall to climb. And I think, Jen, we have to climb it. I'm with you. It is a wall to climb. I think we have to climb it. And I think we do want to push local communities into getting on board. To John's point, if an individual who's not a cop has to ride along with cops or assist with cops or be with the cops, they get to see a different side. They kind of have to care about their community. They'll get a sense of ownership of both solving the problems and, also trying to not let them happen in the first place. Ron says, growing up in Philadelphia, I remember where guardian angels patrolling the streets. I remember that in New York City. Curtis Sliwa. Absolutely. Started out here in Brooklyn, New York City. Absolutely. Patrolling the streets. And I remember when them being cool-headed, fairly nice guys. I remember that there was actually less crime. I remember the guardian angels. They used to wear the red berets and they all knew like karate or whatever they knew in the 70s. I guess it's still true. But yeah, they used to be on the subways. I remember. Absolutely. It was a big deal. That was a part of community policing. I agree. So maybe it will work. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for today. I appreciate all the time you gave me and all the comments that you put out there. We had a good back and forth, and I hope an interesting conversation looking at what I'm talking about. We have to change the systems. We have to have less people being afraid and less cops being afraid. That's getting rid of the war on drugs, changing training, and having open communication with community policing. You do that, I think we're already seeing some of that happening. You're already seeing some of the good cops stand up and go, that's a bad cop, get rid of him. You're seeing more of that. We make that happen, we'll make real change. We don't need federal guidelines or federal laws or federal rules. We need any of that. If we just go back to the feds and don't have them just end the war on drugs, we'll be talking about this for years. Guys, have a good night. I will see you all tomorrow.